Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating today are Laura Alderson, Neil Palmer, Danny Bellissimo, and Sophia Ruddick, and I am Michael Clark. I'm the panel chair, and I am also participating virtually today by video. Registered participants will be participating by audio only, and we also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the bylaws, the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of a committee on a particular application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment, and in the event of an appeal, TLAB, will be sending notification and the appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. If you do not, appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure will be as follows. I'll call each item in the order listed in the agenda. However, today, as an accommodation to the agent, we are going to be hearing item number 17 first. Then we'll go back to item number 13 and proceed in order. We may clear the agenda with some deferrals as well. So we'll go in order other than that. And when an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with a presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and you'll be advised when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Start off with that. Please remember to confine your remarks also to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make their presentation to the committee. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is both accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their presentations. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues and answer those questions that were raised by the speakers, but not to introduce new evidence or information at that time. And that will then mark the end of the discussion on a matter, and the matter is then taken into the committee for a decision. Members and staff, does anyone have any declarations of interest to declare on any of the items before us in this afternoon's agenda?
Palmer and number 18, 24 10th Street. I know a couple of the participants in that matter.
Okay, so we can mark you as not present, and you can take a break when that item is called. Any others? Okay, none to declare. Okay, so we're going to start off with item number 17, 31 17th Street. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with, and this is a change. We have a revision page with a new front yard parking pad, no longer an attached garage. So we have a revised highlighted in yellow sheet. So the purpose has been changed. That purpose does not appear to affect any of the variances before us. There are 4 of those. We have a presentation. We have number 29 in opposition. And okay, and we have also, I believe, in the additional materials, we have transportation comments. Advising that they can't support variance 3 and would recommend refusal of the application. They have urban forestry condition number 1, and in the additional materials, there is an opposition letter that was misfiled as item number 7, but in fact it's on this item 17. And the agent is Franco Romano. We have several other neighbors registered to speak on this matter who will proceed after Mr. Romano's presentation. The neighbors, just 2, 27 and 29, West Tanny, and either Ms. Evangelou or Mr. Jacobson. Okay, so we'll hear first from Mr. Romano. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the indulgence to take me on at this time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing up the presentation slide as well. So 17th Street is a street that consists of detached, semi-detached, and multiplexes. That's consistent with the residential multiple zoning that applies. I've shown in the left-hand side on the air photograph a black line along both sides of the street, which depicts the front yard setback. And even on this air photograph, this snapshot, one will see several vehicles that are parked overlapping the property line and into the boulevard. That is indeed the existing physical character, the prevailing physical character. And that is an instance where front yard parking overlapping the property line is a prevailing condition. And if we look at the photographs, upper left is the subject site, number 31. Next door is number 29, and you'll see that they actually have 2 vehicles parked in the front yard, right next to the tree. This survey shows that driveway and parking area actually overlaps what is part of the space in between the 2 buildings, and that is a right-of-way. There's a mutual right-of-way of 1.07 meters on each property. The building at number 29 actually overlaps that right-of-way and interferes with the right-of-way. The proposal is to continue a front yard parking condition that exists along the entire street, and that is to effect compliance with the zoning bylaw that says that you need to have a parking space on the property. This is a 25-foot lot. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to have a parking space in the backyard, and if there were to be a parking space in the backyard, number 29 would have to tear down part of their fence and accommodate access to the backyard, because the fence is entirely on their property. So either they or a predecessor had put the fence up where it's located. So in order to comply with parking, a front yard parking pad is proposed. And I understand that transportation has a concern, but that concern is inconsistent with what the street character has, what neighboring properties have, and what the subject site can achieve and is proposed to achieve. And that is a parking space that very slightly overlaps the front lot line. If the building were placed deeper into the lot, we'd have a parking space fully on the property. But bear in mind that an average vehicle is much shorter than 5.3 meters. It's much shorter than a 5.6 meter parking space under the zoning bylaw. So a vehicle can certainly park on this property. And if they don't, then they would park on the street. But in order to comply with the zoning bylaw, we have a parking variance, which is consistent and does not abut the tree. There's no urban forestry issue or concern, and it does not abut the fire hydrant. So Looking at the proposal itself, it is a conventional low-profile 2 stories, which replaces the existing 2-story structure. It's not much taller than the existing structure. It has side yard setbacks that are larger than the 60 centimeters minimum that's required. And the proposal does in no way interfere either the parking space or the house. It does not interfere with the right of way at all. So there's no impact on the right of way. The height, the overall height complies, all building setbacks comply, and indeed the existing front yard setback is closer to the property line than the proposed. So the depth of the building complies, the length complies, the building can actually be placed deeper into the lot and still comply. And in terms of the wall height, it's a 35 centimeter difference, and that's mitigated by the fact that we have larger than required side yard setbacks, almost double, and eaves projections and setbacks that are also compliant. So in terms of floor space index, 24% of the properties within the immediate context exceed 0.6, and that's keeping in mind that most of the houses are bungalows. So if they have a 2-story, they too will exceed. So I would submit that the variances that are before you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, are indeed minor in nature, respect and reinforce the prevailing physical character, and create no unacceptable adverse impact. So subject to any questions, that's my presentation for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romano. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Romano at this time, or we'll move on to the neighbors? Okay, the first neighbor is West Tanny at 27 17th.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wes Tanny, live 2 doors down from the proposed property. I don't quite understand why a house with this depth is going into a property. If you look at most of the 17th Street, the houses potentially have had a couple of houses have had a 2nd-story addition, but everything else is the original houses. And the current house that is on 31 is a brick house. I'm not sure why there just isn't a renovation done to the house as opposed to building something that takes up a good bulk of the backyard. We have a house on 16th Street that's about 3 doors down from us that built similar to this into the backyard, and it is an eyesore that every neighbor talks about as being an eyesore. I'm also concerned. I know the elevation that was shown on the screen shows the backyard with steps coming out, the sliding glass doors. I'm assuming, no doubt, there's going to be a wood deck built at some point, which is going to put it above all the fence lines looking down in everybody's backyard. So I definitely have a concern about that. And again, I just don't understand why a house of this size needs to be built in this neighborhood. It goes against everything that's in the neighborhood currently. And again, renovation should be done to make this a relatively affordable house, where everything in the news these days is about affordable housing, and the house that he's proposing is not going to be very affordable for anybody who needs affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for the neighbor? Or if not, we'll move on. I think the next neighbor, and that's the neighbor we have their opposition letter on file. The neighbor next door at 29, either Ms. Evangelou or Mr. Jacobson.
Hi there, it's Aaron Jacobson speaking.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. So Pauline and my concerns really stem from the sheer size of the structure that is intended to be built on the property. From going to what is permitted as, my understanding, 60% of the lot to 81%, that's significant. It would have a huge impact on our sight lines from our backyard, but also inside our house. We're not so much concerned about the height of the structure. I mean, it's an additional 30 centimeters isn't going to impact us. Also, our other concern is the encroachment onto the right-of-way. Now, for them to put a parking pad, we have no issue with a parking pad going in. Our issue is with the encroachment on the right of way. They wouldn't be able to access the parking pad without relocating the tree and or the fire hydrant. Without completely encroaching. And you can see it by that diagram that's up right now. That's in order for them to access it, to avoid the tree and the fire hydrant, they would have to access directly onto the right of way. And and to mention, our garbage cans and whatnot are currently at the back of our house. I don't know if I can indicate where, but in order to bring them in and out from our property on collection day, we would need that area to be completely vacant of any automobiles. So those are our two biggest concerns with this property.
Okay, is that all you have to say? I can see then if anyone has any questions for you. Thank you.
Danny Gillespie has a question. A bit confused about the encroachment question that you've raised. In the site plan that was on, it's on right now as well on the video. The applicant is showing the parking spaces completely on their property once the car is parked. Is that correct? Would that work?
But to access that parking spot, they would need to access the right of way.
But isn't that what a right of way is for access?
I don't know if it's for driving access. That's supposed to be completely clear, is it not?
Mutual right of ways are allowable for driving on. So thanks for I thought this property, the next neighbor, has a right of way agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm located on 29 and yes, it would be a right of way. We both have right of ways to the property.
Yeah. Okay, and that right of way is a driveway right of way, correct?
I don't believe so. I believe it's access to the back.
What's the term of your right of way then? What's it for?
I thought the right of way was to access each other's backyards.
Okay, that's usually side yards. Okay, I'm confused, so I'll have to ask the applicant to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Jacobson? And we'll go back to Mr. Romano. We'll be able to clarify this, I'm sure. Mr. Romano?
Yes, thank you for that, Mr.
Back to you for your response to that and in general your rebuttal to the two neighbors.
Right, if you look at the property at the air photograph, you will see that there is some variation in building length. Some buildings are longer. There's slight difference in the front yard setback. Some are shorter. Clearly, newer construction is longer than older construction. So the proposal conforms and complies with the building length and building depth, and it can actually be placed a little deeper into the lot, but trying to maintain the front yard setback condition, which is an important streetscape issue and concern, and not build too deep into the lot. So there's no building length or depth variance that's being triggered here. I understand it's a little different, but it's not substantially different, and it's based on what the zoning bylaw allows in any event. The floor space index, as I've indicated, even for one-story homes, anybody that built a second-story addition would exceed the 0.6, and 24% of properties already exceed the 0.6. So the proposal at 0.8 or 0.81 is not dramatically different. It's not a significant difference, and it's still within a volume that's appropriate in terms of height, width, length, and it's farther away from the side lot lines. In terms of the right-of-way allows full access over top in that land. So vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, wagons, anybody can, just like the neighbor had indicated, they can traverse over top of it with their waste bins and go front to back. The proposed house and the proposed parking space is off of the right of way. It is not over top of the right of way at all. And that is a condition that the proposal seeks. And the access to that parking space, yes, it will utilize part of the right of way, but it will not impede the right of way. So the neighbor to the south will still have unfettered access front and back to bring their waste bins to the street and back. And the only encumbrance they would have is that their house currently overlaps the right of way. So any restriction to that right of way is currently caused by the existing house at number 29 and is not being caused by the proposal at all. So I don't believe that there's any sightline concern or issue because the planned context permits it. There's no interference with the tree. You'll see the tree is in the tree protection zone is outside of where the parking space is located. And we'll deal with urban forestry in terms of their opinion as to whether or not that tree should continue to remain or if its health is going to require it to be removed. Again, that's got nothing to do with the development. And the fire hydrant is well away from where the parking space is. So there's no impact on the right of way or on the fire hydrant. Subject to any questions, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Romanis. Your client is okay with urban forestry condition number 1 as recommended?
Yes.
Okay, can panel members, any questions for Mr. Romano or either of the other 2 speakers for that matter at this point?
Yeah,
Or
Palmer
some-
here, question for Mr. Romano. Just if you can refer to the comments from Transportation January 21st. And just want clarification on the variance on the parking space. I think Transportation is sort of saying that the parking space on the property is only 4.64 meters. And I thought that the variance was to allow it to be 5.3 meters on the property as opposed to 5.6 meters. So could you just clarify what exactly you're seeking in terms of the parking space located in the front yard of your client? So not in the municipal right of way or not on the private right of way.
Right, the parking space on private property is about 4.65 meters. So the balance is on the city boulevard of the 5.3 meters. And the 5.3 is triggered by the tree protection zone. So that is the size of the parking space, and that's in relation to the zoning bylaw requirement of 5.6. But the 4.64 or 4.65 is larger than the average car length of 4.4 or 4.5 meters. And in the event that that front porch doesn't extend across the full width of the lot, then you'd have the full parking space on private property. So I disagree with the transportation comment that, well, their comment is basically that there is a concern that it's not functional because it encroaches. And they're also saying that it's going to encroach into the mutual right of way, and that's just incorrect. It's not encroaching into the municipal right of way, into the mutual right of way. And the small encroachment into the boulevard is only to affect the 5.3 meters. It is not to affect a functional parking space. And as I've indicated, just look at the photographs of number 29. More than half of their parking space is over top of the city boulevard. And if we look at even next door on the other side, 33 is it? 3/4 of their parking space is in the city boulevard. So those are functional parking spaces. I've seen people park there. We have the photograph evidence of people parking there. They can get in and out. And the proposal is seeking to achieve something that is actually better than what those conditions and what other front pad parking spaces have along the street. So I disagree with Transportation's comment that they would not be functional and that they would have an impact. That's just not the case.
Any other questions for Mr. Romano or anyone else, or someone ready to weigh in?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion. If no one else has further questions. If staff can put on drawing SK1. That's the site plan. Thank you. I agree with the applicant that the parking condition here is the reverse of the neighbors. The neighbors have majority of their parking on public land, the minority on private land, and this applicant is the reverse. Majority of the parking spaces on private land, and smallest portion based on the minimum size of the parking spot is on city land. So I think the impact of this application is less than the existing condition of the two adjoining neighbors. In terms of the variances, I find that they're minor in nature. I agree with the applicant again that there are no other variances here in terms of depth and so on, and they're allowed the depth as presented, as neighbors were concerned about. So I find they're minor in nature and move for approval conditional on forestry's condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo, for those reasons as well. Is there a seconder for Mr. Bellissimo's motion?
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Yeah, can't see if staff can advise if
It was unanimous.
it was unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we can return to the top of the agenda at item number 13. First, next item is 89 13th Street. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 5 variances. Planning is recommending refusal of the application. Reasons that it presents that the front is a 3-story and that the FSI is excessive. We have opposition, I believe, total of 16 I counted, although 3 of them I note are from the same address. And a letter of support from 170 Lakeshore Drive. We have Urban Forestry requesting condition number 3. And in the additional materials, we have a presentation materials, basically a key map and photos. And we have numerous speakers on this application. Firstly, the agent, Alex Marrero. And then we have the neighbors from, sorry, I'm looking at 14. The applicant is Farhad Abdul Habadi. And then we have the neighbors from 91, 92, 13th Street and 7 Jackson Road registered to speak as well. So the first speaker is the agent, Farhad Abdul Habadi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the committee members. My name is Farhad Abdul Wahabi, the principal architect of Architect. I'm representing 89 13th Street, and thank you so much for presenting the files for me. The first PDF shows the property I'm representing in yellow and some blue shaded properties on 13th Street. And the orange shaded properties are the precedents of having the same variances approved. And I will further discuss these in detail. Going first to the variances. Item number 1, the maximum number of platforms at or above the 2nd story per bylaw is 1. Our proposed is 2, and the maximum area allows 4 square meter. We have 9 and 9.8. So you may observe on the design documents, we provided a green roof in the majority area of each platform. Item number 2, the maximum FSI is 0.6 times the area, and we have provided 0.89. The building is facilitated with an elevator for the client's elderly in-law to live with them. And item number 3, 4, and 5, almost 5 minutes, the same, is the maximum front exterior main wall bylaw is 7, and we have 10.85, and for dwelling height is 9.5, that proposed is 11.1. Zoning bylaw allows us a 3-story single single-family detached dwelling. And having said that, each floor height is 9 feet and a feet for a structure building. The ground is almost 4 feet above the grade. So the sum up, if we sum them up, we get the height that we proposed. May I ask go for next picture, please? Because we have some objections of the neighbors. We want to just go through the neighborhood to get familiar with the neighborhood first. We are 89. So the south is 87, then 91. You can see that now the massive building that we name it 2-story is on the south side. You can observe the height, the mass of the building, and compare it with a 2-story building with a pitch roof. Next, please. So this one, 69, 71, 73, you can find that, 3 multi-unit residential, 3-story, we name it 2-story, but it's 3 units there, which is raised ground floor. Next, please. And the neighborhood, again, for 57, 59, 61, 63, which is semi dwellings, residential. Please, next. And the focal point of the 13th Street, which is, I guess, 7 or 8, 5 to 7, it's a 7 or 8 story building. Just next, please. Again, 24, 26, and 28 on the other side of 13th Street. If you can see that, the mass of the building, it is 2-story counted as a 3. And it is massive buildings that we can just observe on that street. Next, please. So is 54 just a 2-story? Look like a 3-story height and massive again. Next picture, if I can go to the precedence of my presentation, is number 102 Lakeshore Boulevard, is a 3-story building with 0.88 FSI and 10.6 meter high. And next picture again is the 102. You can see that on the right hand side, it is the platforms are on the north side, and both of them are just is fully paved. Next picture, please. Okay, this is 170th Street. You can see that it's 3-story residential single-family dwelling, that it has the same mass and the same type of the building that we designed it. I couldn't find any picture for 90 Lakeshore Boulevard that had an FSI of 0.91 with a height of 11.61, and also platform paved 16.8, 4.4, 7.2, or 18 square meter, or 120 on Lakeshore, which 9.75 height, or 90 10th Street, which is just a block or 2 on the east side of our property with FSI of 0.93. And last picture.
Can you sort of start wrapping up? You're over 5 minutes.
Just in a minute, I will finish it. This is our proposal. If you can see 89 13th Street, the ground floor is raised per code requirement, and it is a 3-story building as per code requirement, and the second and the third floor are set back to reduce the visual height of the building. We chose the flat roof to reduce the mass of the building, at least look like to the neighborhood, and modern look. Also, the second floor and the third floor have a green roof to provide a required privacy and reduce the platform area. The variances that are before you are indeed minor and present in the neighborhood currently. The building height and the mass of the building are not dramatically differences to other buildings mentioned today. The significant will be minor. My client and I will appreciate your attention in favor of our request. Many thanks for your
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions at this point for the agent before we hear from the neighbors?
Danny Belesmo has a quick question. I just would like to hear a yes or a no to this question. You are aware of the planning report and you've read it, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first speaker is either Ms. Wakalowski or Mr. Stephen at 9113th Street right next door. As I mentioned, we do have a lot of opposition letters on file for your perusal during and obviously before the hearing. So who's the next speaker?
It's Alexandra Wakalowski.
Okay, welcome.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, members of the Committee of Adjustment. I'm Alexandra. My husband is beside me. He's listening in. That's Stephen. Our house is on 9113th Street, which is right next door to 89 on its north side. Our objection is that this home is based on its overall height and size. For example, it's going to be cutting down on sight lines from our property and other neighbors. When we walk out my backyard, we will be seeing an approximately 36-foot high wall tearing down level by level to the back of our property with 3 decks. We feel this will create a shadow effect and dwarf our 2-story home, as well as our rear yard, and we will lose its privacy because of these decks. These decks will be able to look right down directly on our backyard, our neighbor at 7 Jackson Road, all of the properties behind the house, and completely obliterate our privacy. Also, I don't understand why this is a minor variance application. Point 1, having 2 platforms instead of 1, that's 100% increase. The size of the terraces or platforms, the bylaw is 4 square meters. They're proposing 1 at 9 and 1 at 9.8 meters, which is 125% and 145% respectively. Permitted floor size is 245.2 square meters. They're proposing 362.3 square meters. That's a 47.75% increase. The permitted height of all front exterior walls is 7 meters. They're proposing 10.85. That's a 43.13% increase. The maximum dwelling height permitted is 9.5. They're proposing 11.1. That's a 15.53% increase. And the maximum dwelling height, the bylaw is 9.5. They would like to raise it to 11.1, which is a 15.53% increase. As to the pictures that the agent was referring to, well, these pictures, 87 13th Street is a 2-story building, same as 73, 71, and 69 13th Street. 63, 61, 59, 57, 13th Street are all 2-story houses, not 3-story. Large apartment building on the bottom of the street faces the lake. They have nobody at the back, and it doesn't look from the picture like there was a shadow effect or anything. 26, 28, 13th Street are 2-story houses, not 3. 54 13th Street is a 2-story apartment building, not 3. As for the other houses at 102 Lakeshore Drive and also 17th Street, well, Lakeshore Drive is right on the lake. There are bigger houses there, but it's also a very much pricier street to live on, and its characteristics are different than when you come north. Same with the one at 17th Street. That's right down at the lake with a park on one side. It's really not affecting anything. So I don't see how these can be minor variances, and I strongly object to approving this. And that's it for me.
Michael, you need to unmute.
Sorry, my bad. I forgot to unmute. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Rokolowski? Or if not, we'll move on to the next speaker, Mr. and Mrs. Kraut at 92 13th Street across the street. Okay, so let's hear, is it Mr. and Mrs. Kraut that we're hearing from?
Oh, hi, good afternoon. Thank you. I just want to reiterate or support what our neighbor at 91 just said. I don't want to go over all that again. But in summary, we believe that that house is just way too big for our neighborhood to be put onto a lot of that size. I appreciate what the agent was saying and showing about different properties in the neighborhood. However, many of the ones that he pointed out to be 3-story units are not single family units. Those are multifamily apartment complexes which serve 6-8 families, not just one family. And I think that the variances that have been brought forth are not minor. And when you combine 5 not minor variances, it becomes a really big issue, in my opinion. So I would like to just express our view that we are not in agreement with what is being proposed. However, if there was a building that was going to be built within the guidelines that the city has dictated, and also within a build that is respectful to the immediate neighbors, we'd be very happy about that, because for sure something has to be done. So just want to say we submitted our objection and agree with our neighbor across the road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Kraut? Or if not, we'll move on to the last neighbor with concerns and was registered to speak is Mr. and Mrs. Legowski at 7 Jackson Road.
Yes, hello. So I'm Violet Legowski, and I'm here with my husband Piotr Legowski. And
Welcome.
thank you. And we just wanted to say that we agree with our neighbors completely. We do believe that, and we knew that new building needs to be built, and we appreciate that. And we have no objection to that, but the size of the proposed building is just way too big, and everything that the prior speakers said, I agree with that. So the building will be 3-story building, which will be overlooking our backyard.
Side yard. We don't have a backyard.
Side yard, which is very tiny. We are very happy with it right now. It's tiny, but it's very, very private. And really, we don't want anybody overlooking and just taking this privacy away from us. So yeah, that's all we have to say. That it's going to block a lot of the sunlight that is now entering into our yard and into our house. And
the first terrace is on a level with our fence.
Just one speaker, please. Please, sir. We only have one speaker.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So as my husband said, that the terrace, there will be 3 terraces, and one of the terraces people will be able to see everything that's happening on our property. So we don't have the objection to the new building. We have the objection to the size and to the height of the building.
Okay. Thank you very much. Committee members, any questions for this neighbor or any of the neighbors at this point? Otherwise, we'll go back to Farhad for his rebuttal.
I have a question of the neighbors in general. The building at 87 13th Street looks to be a single family home that is really 3 stories based on the image that I'm looking at. I'm just wondering how the height of this new building compares with the one directly beside it at 87. and whether that is a multifamily dwelling or a single family dwelling. Because it looks like pretty much a 3-story. It's not really a 2-story. It's more like a 3-story. Does anyone have any, maybe the applicant can answer that.
Okay, why don't we give first of all, Ms. Wakalovsky a chance, who's just on the other side. She's at 91, so that would be, the
Oh,
neighbor.
sorry, I thought the speakers were finished.
Right, but I was asking questions of the speakers.
And well, I'm just wondering how they feel about that particular building. It is for all intents and purposes a 3-story, and it is directly adjacent to this one in question, the applicant's building.
Okay, so either ask Mrs. Crowd at 92 across the street, or Ms.
I was just wondering if anyone felt like answering that.
Yeah, okay. So who wants to answer that, if anyone?
Does anyone want to answer that?
Sure, I will answer that. It actually is a 2-story. I think it's just the first story is a little above because it must be, but it's a multi-family. It's an apartment building. It's not a single family dwelling.
Okay. And do you know how the height compares with the proposed dwelling?
No, not exactly. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be a question for the applicant. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure the applicant addresses that in his rebuttal as well. Okay. So thank you, neighbors. Hang on, and we're going back to Farhad to respond to what the neighbors have had to say, in addition to answer Ms. Alderson's question about the current structure at 87.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and other committee members. To answer their questions, I tried to, because I received those objections of the neighborhood, I tried to show them, whatever it is exists there, the mass of the buildings. I don't, I don't mention that it is single family. It is, multi-user occupancy. If they think about the height of this building, the proposed building, it is too much. Just take a look at the mass of the neighbors, the mass of the buildings over there. The right beside us is a 2-story raised with 9.2, close to 10 meter. And you cannot see the roof of that one. It is not counted on that one. If you just get a little bit far from that one, you can see that it is a massive building. It is, it is 2-story by name, but 3 residential multi-user occupancy over there. If you're talking about the privacy, that we provided some sort of terraces, balcony setbacks on floor by floor to provide the sun for the neighbors and also reduce the privacy, but using the balcony with parapets and flower box, and which is covered, that one is doesn't provide any obstacle for them for the sunshade or for whatever that they want to have in the backyard. And the shadow that they are saying, that if the zoning is approved for that property as a 3-story dwelling, so we provided exactly the same. It is not something dramatically too much. And even if we build that one, and we chose a flat roof. Why? Because we don't want to be have a different mass or different a huge humongous mass over there and provide more shadow over there. Otherwise, it's possible to redesign that one as a a heap roof or something else with 3-story, which is low to build on it, but its mass is really more than this one. Thank you so much again for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, committee members, so any questions for the agent or any of the neighbors, or someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in with a motion, but I'd like staff to put a drawing up on the screen. And that will be the section drawing 5's elevation A4-04. Says south elevation side view. That's it. Thank you. Is there any way of zooming in? I don't know if people can read that. The other members can, but I want to point out a number of things. And first of all, I read the planning report very carefully, and I have to start off saying that I agree with everything that planning is saying about this particular site. They're taken into a closer context of neighborhood. And I want to address this drawing because it shows very clearly from the basement to the ceiling. On the first floor, we have a 10-foot 7-inch height. On this first floor, we have 9-foot 10, and the others are 8 and 8, which is fine. But I find that the overall massing of this elevation is way too much for its impact on the abutting neighbors. It's a nice design. I give the architect credit for that, but I don't think it's for this site based on what planning is saying, based on the floor height, and based on how far the first floor off is from the ground. So I would like to move for refusal of the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo, for that well-reasoned motion. Is there someone ready to second that motion?
A theoretical second that.
Okay, all in favor? Again, I don't see any hands up, so someone, staff could assist me. All I see is a blank.
Unanimous.
Myself.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous, okay, I agree as well. So the motion carries, the application is refused. Thank you, neighbors, and thank you, agent. I'm glad we have actually reasons for that from Mr. Bellissimo. In my zeal to accommodate the agent on item number 17, Mr. Romano, I omitted to deal with there are 3 items we can clear from the agenda and get people on with their dates. Perhaps with everyone's indulgence, we'll deal now with the deferral requests or automatic deferrals. So the first one is item number 16, 57 Lacey Avenue. And that is a request from the agent in order to update variances based on the scaled back plans. Actually, I think they're going to scale back the application. So they're asking that matter be deferred. Is the agent for item number 1657 Lacey with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Miskey. So we spoke with community planning. We reduced the size of the garage that we're proposing.
Yes.
But I need more time with zoning to get the list updated.
I see. So you're compliant. Just a question, they haven't had a chance to review with the changes you've made at their request.
Yeah, so, zoning just emailed me the list of changes, but we don't have enough time.
Okay, members, we have a request for deferral. Can I have a motion and a seconder for that?
Any Bellissimo moves?
Okay, thank you. Seconded by?
Seconder.
Laura Alderson, all in favor? Okay, the matter is unanimously deferred. Thank you. We'll see you back here another time when you get when you're ready to go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So item 16 is gone. Deferred. Item next to is item number 21, 145 Evans Avenue. This is an automatic deferral. The notice was incorrect. There was no WebEx information. So this is an automatic deferral. Is the agent on the line for item number 21, 145 Evans?
No, he's not. And we can do a deferral to the next available hearing date, but I think it has been rescheduled for February 23rd.
Okay. Can I have someone to move and second that?
Happy to move that.
Thank you, Laura. Seconded by?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear. Oh, Sophia Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Matter is automatically deferred. In absentia. The next one is the last hearing, item number 22, 1218 Royal York Road. And this is to be deferred to revise the application materials to reflect required road dedication as requested by Engineering and Construction Services. Is the agent with us?
I'm not sure. Annalisa, did he join or no?
Hi, sorry, no, he did not join.
Okay, so the agent's not here. It's Engineering and Construction Services is asking for a road dedication, so the applicant will have to modify all of their plans and resubmit to show the dedication in those smaller lots.
Right, okay. So let's take the same mover and seconder from the last one. How's that?
Happy to do that, yes.
Okay. Okay, so now that is deferred. So we've gotten a few people streamlined where we have to continue. So we have, we've just done 14, so we have 15, and we have 18, and we have 19 and 20. Okay, so item number 15, next one on the list is 40 SEVENOAKS Avenue. Again, we have a revised application on this.
He's jumping.
We have 14.
Oh, right, sorry. We have 14. Okay, my mistake. Next item is item number 14, 27 15th Street. Glad someone else is paying attention. And this, again, is an application we have several speakers on. It's an application. We have a revision page. This is for a second-story addition and a two-story rear addition. There were 5 variances. 2 have been reduced very slightly. So we do have a yellow sheet. We have 2 letters of opposition. Neighbors, both adjacent neighbors, 25 and 29, are opposed. And we have, looks like a number of speakers on this application as well. Just bear with me. Find that. We have, first of all, Alex Marraro, the agent. And then we have the neighbors from 20 and 29 and 25th Street registered to speak, in addition to the agent. So let's go first to Mr. Marrero.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and panel members. My name is Alex Marrero. I am representing item 14 on the agenda, 2750th Street. This is our second revision to the drawings. We had conversations with planning staff. We actually applied all the staff recommendations based on previous approvals in the neighborhood. And that is why you don't have a planning report. Item number 1 on the variances is because it's a flat roof. So it has that front wall that is normally taller than when you get trusses and you have your overhang and the eavesdrop lower than the roof line. But building a house in that section with the slope roof will actually give you a higher house overall. This variance is not for the overall height, it's only for the main wall.
Sir, can you please use the list in front of you, not the zoning review, because that will confuse everybody about which variance you're discussing.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, yes. So the number 1 item in this list, which basically will be the permitted floor space, which we are asking for 0.82 as was recommended by planning. How do I go down on this because I don't have that list? How do I get this to? Item number 2 is the building length. We are asking for 0.95 centimeters extra over the standard by law. The height of the main wall is what I mentioned before. The next one is an existing variance because the 0.48, I lost it. So the 0.48 on the setback on the south side is existing. The last one is the balcony, which we're asking from 4 meters to 6.5 square meters. Now this balcony is between 2 solid walls. You can see that on the floor plan A6 or in the elevation A10. So basically, there's no way to look at either side because the balcony is within 2 solid walls, which we did that to give the neighbors their privacy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for the agent before we hear from the neighbors? Okay. In that case, the first neighbor is registered to speak as a neighbor at 2015th Street, Ihab and Tabli.
We don't have question. It's good.
Oh, you're just observing?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next speaker is again one of the two people who've written in, one of the adjacent neighbors, Ange Rigas at 2915th Street.
Yes, hello.
And I believe we have your letter.
That's right.
Yes.
I did write a letter. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I strongly object to this proposal. I do not think any of these 5 zoning violations, first of all, the fact that there are 5, not just 1 or 2, they're not minor. They're quite major. To the north of me is a triplex. And this triplex is, it has a solid brick wall extending from the level with the back of my house all the way down my backyard, almost to the end of the yard. And it is a very high brick wall. And now this proposal will build a house on the south side of me with another giant brick wall. I will basically be living at the bottom of a canyon. It will cut my light. It actually will cast my house into darkness and my backyard into darkness. I spend a lot of time, I don't work. I spend a lot of time at home. I spend a lot of time outside. And I enjoy my patio. I garden extensively. I have a garden of many years cultivation, which requires sunlight. As I wrote in the letter, I have flowers, I have vines, I have hedges, I have a grapevine, and I have a patio that I'm on every day, even in the winter. This will effectively position me between 2 giant brick walls to my grave detriment. And my situation is unique because I don't have any opening on the north side to offset what they propose to do on the south side. So I think it's an outrageously sized house, which is far too big for the lot. It does not fit in with the immediate streetscape. It's a monstrosity. It will eliminate my natural light. I have one window on the south, which a lot of daylight comes in. I have that's the landing of my second story. I'm in a 1.5 story. It's the landing of the staircase. I have plants there. The light floods into my foyer. I have another window in my kitchen. Those are my 2 south windows. I have 3 more windows in the basement, which are very small. And I have gone to the opposite side of the triplex next door during even this, when there's high sun, high noon. And on the north side of the triplex next door, it's absolute darkness, and this is what is going to happen in my. I'll be cast into a perpetual shadow world. Now, the person who spoke, solid wall on either side of the balcony. If that is true, that will prevent them from peering down into my patio, for which I built a privacy lattice fence. However, it does not prevent the monstrous height. Okay, so the limit is 7, the zoning says 7 meters, which is 22.9 feet, and they are asking for 8.7 meters, which is 28.5 feet. So they're asking for almost, actually, yes, just about approximately 6 feet over in terms of height. Right now, the house there is a small bungalow, and that's what it's been for the 17 years that I have lived here. And now, after 17 years, with no intention of moving anytime soon, God be with me, I will die in this house. I love this house. I love living in South Etobicoke. For all the reasons that are now slowly changing with all these monster homes going up, 16th Street, 17th Street, I see it. And one was built at the bottom of our street, which is completely out of character and dwarfs the adjacent homes. So I object to the light. I don't know if the house is going to have windows on the north side. if it's going to have windows, that will also impact my privacy, and it will fundamentally change the character of my property. It will adversely impact when I go to sell. I'll have a limited pool of potential buyers. Nobody is going to want to buy and live in the house that is between two prison walls. So perhaps my house will be attractive to investors, and that will be it. And people actually looking for a place to live will bypass my home. They won't want to live here. And that is an adverse impact on my any future selling activity should I decide to sell. Like I said, at this point, I don't plan to, I don't want to, and I want to stay put, and I want to enjoy my property, and I'm entitled to that. And this is, I think this is a house that's going to be built and then resold. I don't know, but it seems to me that it's they paid just over $800,000 for this house, and I think once they do the rebuild and sell it, if they sell it, I don't know how many people are going to live next door.
Wrap up. You're over 5 minutes. Thank you.
I just also want to mention that I do have suspicions about whether it will be a single-family home, because there are a number of illegal rooming houses on this street. We're very close to Humber College. The house proposal has 4 bedrooms upstairs with 3 bathrooms upstairs. And how do I know that this house will not be sold to an investor who wants to stuff it with students, as at least 5 other homes on my street have been, and including the house across the street.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for this neighbor? We have her letter as well with us from Ms. Rodriguez. Anyone have any questions for her? If not, we'll move on to the next neighbor on the other side at 25, who also we have their letter as well, and that is Denise Richard or Peter Rumble at 25.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Great. Thank you. I'm Peter Rumble. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I really appreciate it. Yes, I'm not quite in the same situation as the neighbor on the 29th who will be living in a canyon. My more concerns is about how it affects me, of course. And one of my big things is that it's going to have an underground garage, it would appear. And there's 2 or 3 of those on our street, I believe, and they have so much trouble every year with the snow and everything else like that. And I'm right up, smack up, my driveway's right smack up against that. So I don't I don't know where I'm putting my snow. And I think it's going to be a real problem with everything. The other issue, of course, is the tree, the city-owned tree. There's no way, if they're going to have an underground parking lot, all the roots, it's going to be right up against where they're digging. So the tree's going to lose half its roots right away. So I think the builder should acknowledge right away that that tree's gone. So I don't know if they put up a bond or whatever, but there's no way that tree is going to be able to survive the construction of an underground driveway. And also, the underground driveway below grade is going to cause issues with potential issues with the city sewer system and the water, and it's all very old, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I guess the other thing, that the height of the building, a lot of times they just talk about the front, how it is going to be, but so often it's the roof. I had a lot of questions, which I guess I never got the answers to. But I'm just wondering about, how tall is the actual side? I get that the walls are going to be above grade, but whatever. The other thing is on section, the first variance, number 1, that's just incredible. It's going up 30 instead of 157.31. It's going to be square meters. It's 217.76. That's a 38% increase over and above the variance. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Like that how can that be considered minor? I mean, I'm a CPA. 38% is a big number. And plus, as the previous caller said, there's not just one variance, it's 5 that they're looking for changes. Like this is a big difference. I mean, you may as well throw the zoning bylaws out the window if five it's allowed for five to be broken. And I guess my final point is that I hear a lot of people I know who have had buildings built near there. And the city kind of allowed the builder to build something that was not to plan. So it was approved, the variances were approved, and then they still built a different building. And I guess my question or my concern is that is the city really going to be that? Will they enforce whatever comes out of this hearing? Because so often I know people the building was 10 feet closer to the water than it's supposed to be, and the answer that they got from the city was the builder promised not to do it again, but there was no penalties there. So whatever happens with this building is going to affect the value of my building, my house, and the question. And we've been there since 2002. And the other question is that so if the builder does go ahead and build against what's approved, what am I going to be indemnified for that? What's my recourse if the city allows this to happen? And who knows? I'm just speculating, but again, I know too many people in that situation.
Yeah, it's sort of an academic question, I guess. If someone does build, and occasionally they do build a couple of inches, or for whatever reason, either by mistake or not, and they come back, they have to reapply to get that approved. And the committees would be instructed that no adverse or pro opinion by the fact that it's already built. You'd have to look at it as if it wasn't built. But I think that's a sort of a an argument. We're not looking at this in this case. There's no indication that this particular they will not build. But that's your general answer, that it is watched, it is checked, and if someone builds more than they're required, than they were permitted, they have to come back and reapply. Okay, in this case, I don't know if I mentioned at the outset, there is an urban forestry condition on this application, urban forestry condition number 2. So if you'd like, you have another minute if you'd like to continue. When I interrupt you to advise you, that let's, in terms of the argument of what's minor in an accounting world and in the planning world, I agree. Maybe it should be called something other than minor, because people say, how can you start quoting percentages? Unfortunately, we don't look at percentages. We look at the 4 tests under the Planning Act. Okay, so if you'd like to continue for another minute, sir. Otherwise, we have to go back to the applicant for his rebuttal to you and the other neighbor on the other side.
All right. Well, forgetting the percentages then, it's just thank you for your explanation. And again, this is hypothetical, but it just seems like everybody I know, the building that was built was not the building that was approved, and nothing ever happened to the builder. It seems like we're not enforcing the zoning. But if maybe 38.4% is not, people can't understand that, but it's still, you're going from 157 square meters to 217 square meters. That's a huge jump above the zoning. However you want to slice it, it's a big number. This is a big house, and it's definitely, the variance is not minor, and it's not desirable for the neighborhood, and it's against the zoning. So I'm really, I'm kind of against the building. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, let's see. Any panel members have any questions for the speaker? And if not, we'll go back to the agent to respond to both adjacent neighbors' concerns. I know we do not have a planning report on this application. Okay, sir, back to the speaker.
Yes, thank you. Okay, regarding the sun in the backyards, I want to mention that we are not asking for a backyard setback variant, like the backyard is full size as specified by the city. Staff has no comments. Regarding the balcony, yes, it has a solid wall in either side, just to confirm with the neighbor. If you look at plans A10 or A6, will show you that either side had a full wall. We're not looking for an overall height variance, it's only for the main wall. There's no windows on either side, assuring privacy to both neighbors as well. It is a single family home. It is not designed to have multiple families living there. There is no underground garage. I'm confused and I don't understand why the one neighbor mentioned an underground garage. We are not planning to dig around the tree. As a matter of fact, we like the tree so much that we reverse the driveway. If you go to the site, the original driveway is on the left side of the house, where is the parking lot right now. We have reversed the front door in order to be farther away from the tree and make sure that we protect it. Also, if the committee will approve this today, will have to be based on forestry approvals as well, which they will come and inspect and give us the recommendations. The city tree is there to stay. We actually like it, and that's the reason why we designed the house accordingly. And now, to defend the city staff and the inspectors, I built many houses in Etobicoke, and even for 1 inch, the inspectors give us a hard time if we don't follow the plans. So to be honest, I never encountered a house that can be built bigger unless we go back to committee, and we never have the chance that committee will refuse and I have to demolish the house or take away the extra, but never the inspector will allow you to build the house not even 1 inch bigger. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members, any follow-up questions for the applicant or any of the other speakers for that matter, or someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I have a question of the applicant. In terms of cross sections and heights, I notice your floor to ceiling heights are also more than standard.
Yeah.
Would there be an issue if we don't approve the height variance, and would that be absorbed by the interior floor to ceiling height?
It will not, because the problem is the garage. What happens is you look at when you can see the main floor has an overall height of 12 feet, over the garage is only 8. If I understand correctly, hold on, let me just double check. What kind of a height variance would you like me to reduce if you are going to propose something? What are you thinking?
I was just asking what your rationale was for the heights, because they're see more than 8 feet.
Yeah, the main floor, the second floor is actually 8 feet.
Yes.
The main floor, it looks like it's a little higher, which is what normally people like for the open space. In the 25-foot houses, the width of the house is a minimum that we try to increase the height of the ceiling, so it gives you a more spacious look.
What is that height? That height is 10 feet, is it not?
It is 10 feet to the top of the second floor. Let me give me 1 second. I think it's 9 plus the floor.
It's in the cross section.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It shows 3 meters 360.
So what is that, 10 feet floor to ceiling?
Give me 1 quick second, please. Convert 3.36 meters to feet. It's 10 feet ceiling, floor to ceiling, yes.
So 10 feet floor to ceiling on the first floor, and the basement, then what's the basement ceiling, floor to ceiling height?
The basement should be 8.
That's 8?
Yes, and the second floor is 8.
Yeah, so the basement is 8 feet, okay, and that's impact of, and you're saying the garage is also part of that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, the garage
It's not a new build, right? This is an additions?
It is a renovation, yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bellissimo, do you have your answer to the first floor height is 10 feet and the basement?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify because they're all in metric, and I did convert. And he's answered my question. Thank you.
Right about the second floor height. What's the second floor height? More reasonable?
It's 8 feet.
8 feet. Okay. Okay, back to you, Mr. Bellissimo. Your question is answered, and in which case I'm waiting for you or any other member to weigh in with a motion on this. Unless there's additional questions. And if someone's putting up their hand, I can't see you, so just weigh right in. I don't see anyone's other than me. Hello?
Nothing so far.
Okay. I didn't lose communication.
Okay, Palmer here. I'm prepared to make a motion. I'm concerned that it's out of character with the immediate neighborhood. The building length dictates into the FSI, and those two just look out of character. So I'm going to say that they're not minor. The variances requested are not minor, not in keeping with the zoning bylaw and official plan and not desirable for the appropriate development of the property. So I'm going to recommend refusal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Sophia Reddick.
Sophia Reddick, okay. All in favor? I can't see anyone, so Barb, please, or Annalisa, or someone
Sorry,
take.
it looks like all in favor.
Okay, so the matter is unanimously refused. Okay, thank you, neighbors, and thank you, applicant. So now we can move on to item number 15. The one I called by mistake before, 47 Oaks Avenue. Again, we have revised yellow notice sheets. In this instance, it is now proceeding by way of waiver with the revisions. So there were three variances that are now two. The rear yard soft landscaping variance has been removed. The one of the other two has been reduced. The location from the rear lot line for the pool. There's an application to construct a rear yard deck and an in-ground swimming pool in the rear yard. Obviously not to be used for a few months yet, if approved. And on this application, we have 2 letters of support. And there is, that's basically all we have on this application. The speaker, I believe there's only one speaker, the agent for the applicant, and that would be Nasser Amir.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Nasser Amir of ArcEye Architects. We're at 200 Cache Woods Court in Markham, Suite 314.
Okay, so simple application. You've eliminated one of your variances and reduced one of the others. 2 neighbors are in support, no one opposed. I assume they're going to get invited to the pool. And let's see if anyone has any questions for you. Was there anything you'd like to advise committee members of before? I don't think we need a fulsome presentation.
I'm happy to explain any questions in there, but it's self-explanatory. There isn't enough. The whole depth of the backyard is roughly 24 feet. The zoning bylaw requires that we leave 10 of that as a setback for the pool, which basically leaves no space for a pool at all. So we're asking for a relief from this zoning bylaw.
Okay. Okay, any questions, committee members?
I have no further questions if anyone else does. Otherwise, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, I think you're safe to go ahead.
I think so too. I think this is a very straightforward application. The variances meet the 4 tests, and I move approval. I don't believe there are any conditions.
Correct. Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that. The seconder for
Sophia Reddick, second.
Sophia Reddick, thank you. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, Barb. Okay, thank you. You have your variances. Your application has been approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Committee of Adjustment.
Okay, so our next application is item number 18, 24 10th Street. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances. We have an applicant's presentation. First of all, we missed Mr. Palmer's as a conflict declaration of interest, so he has left the meeting space, the virtual meeting room. We have Urban Forestry requesting conditions 1 and 2. Again, 4 variances. We have the applicant's presentation. We have 3 letters of opposition and a petition. And we have 3 speakers, the applicant Trevor Gain, as well as the neighbors at 40 and 17th 10th Street, registered to speak. Okay, so Mr. Gain.
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm Trevor Gain. I'm the applicant here on behalf of the owners.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. The application before you, as you mentioned, is to demolish the existing 1-story single-family dwelling and construct a new 2-story dwelling with an integral garage. The existing bungalow is about 841 square feet and able to put an as-of-right addition or new build on this property is about 1,582 square feet which doesn't even allow a full second floor on top of that bungalow. The house is situated on a street that is predominantly no development, just a few minor rear additions, a few second floor top-ups, but essentially kind of left in its original state. However, just traveling out in any direction along the streets, on the neighboring streets, you'll see that this whole area is an area of transition. If you drive around, you'll see numerous examples of larger renovations, new homes being built. Pretty much like every property in this area, given the low zoning standards, minor variances are required for this new construction. We're requesting 4, as you mentioned, floor space index, building height, and a pair of landscaping variances in the front. For the first one, for floor space area, allowed 40%, we're asking for 79. Committee, can I get my supporting scroll down, I guess, so I did all the approved committee of adjustments, that sheet, yes, please. This sheet, we did all the history in the immediate area in like 2 to 3 streets in each direction over the last 10 years. All the red highlights are minor variances that have been approved to this panel, both in height and in floor space index, that either exceed or meet of what we're proposing. So in this chart, 10th Street is right down the middle. The green is the subject property and our 2 variances. And you can see as you go down, there has been some minor variances associated on 10th Street, mainly for floor space index with a range of 48 to 69%. If we go to the left, which is to the west, 11th, 12th, and 13th, you'll see the floor space index jumps around from either 41% approved all the way up to 98. And similar when we go to the right, which is to the east, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th Street, etc. Again, the minor variances approved in this area for 63 all the way up to 117%. The height that we're asking for, it's 7.2 meters to the top of a flat roof, and we're asking for 9.17. I will mention that the allowable height in this area for a pitched roof, even a low slope pitched roof, is 9.5 meters. So what we're asking for, we're still under that massing limit. The house is designed that we have an integral garage, and we're utilizing the space above the garage by inserting the floor on top. And this is what's pushing up the GFA and the height. What this does is that this creates a nice connection. It creates a living room over top of the garage, creates a front window, which allows the family a connection to the street. If we can scroll to the photographs, the next page. 2 more, I guess. Page 2 of the photographs, please. Next one. So in this one, you'll see there's many examples of modern builds within this area. All of them have a very similar house style where we have a garage and we have an elevated room on top. Next page, please. Page 3. So this raised building type is not uncommon. If we look at photograph number 16, this is probably where it all started, where everybody back in the day would have below grade garages and we would have the house sitting on top. Based on 2002, there was a whole ban on below grade garages, mainly for flooding, for streetscape, for safety, etc. So the houses started to get pushed up. This type of concept is also not just subject to the new houses. If we look at photograph 17, this is one of the original housing stock, and you'll notice that that house is sitting on top of the garage. And in this particular case, the garage was just actually converted to habitable space. Similarly now, this raised house prototype is not only subject to modern, but also sloping roof houses as well. You can see photograph 15 and photograph 18, sloping roof design, but the same thing, a raised house. Next page, please, page 4. And like I said, not only modern houses, more examples of pitched roof houses, again with the garage with the house sitting on top. So this area, there's also many examples. If we go to the next page on page 5, there's also 2.5-story houses and 3-story houses all over the neighborhood. So there's a whole wide range of housing types. And page 6, next page. So I'd like to draw your attention to photographs 32 and 33. Here's an example of photograph number 32 is new houses built where they have a front door and a garage door with no living space. If we look at photograph number 33, here's some original houses where the house on the left is showing the front door, garage door, no front window, no connection, with direct comparison to a below grade garage house where you can see now there's a front window, now the occupants have a direct view of the street, and it just makes for better streetscape. So overall, based on the documents that I gave you, the photographs, what we're proposing here is not out of character. The variances are pretty much in keeping with what's been approved in the area, including the heights. We do feel that this is in keeping with the current housing stock that's up and down the streets, the approvals that have been approved over the number of years from this panel. The variances are minor and it meets the 4 test. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gain. Any questions for Mr. Gain before we hear from the neighbors? And
Dave, this was just a question of clarification. You have here a floor plan called theater. Is that, where is that? Theater.
That's a room that's excavated under the garage. So a lot of times we do that, just given the fact that we have to dig everything out. We're creating a subterranean room that's under the garage, just for additional amenity space for the
So
occupants.
you have a room underneath the car, basically under the garage. And how deep is that room?
I believe it's 8 feet below grade.
Oh, 8 feet. Wow. Okay. I think you'd be hitting the water table, but anyway, thanks.
okay, interesting. Okay, there's no other questions for Mr. Gain. We have 2 neighbors. The first is from 4010th Street. We also have numerous letters of opposition. If you want to read along with those, we have a petition and 3 letters. And so we have the neighbor at Teresa Edmonds at 4010th Street, and then we'll hear from Gary McLay at 1710th Street.
Hello there, can you hear me all right?
Yes, maybe just a little bit louder, please.
Okay, my name is Therese Edmonds, and I live at 4010th Street. Thank you for having me. I'm speaking on behalf of 21 neighbors who signed in opposition to the adjustment application for 24th 10th Street. Now, as mentioned, there are 4 variances, and the first 2 with respect to floor space index and height of the dwelling are significant requests that are neither minor in nature nor appropriate for the redevelopment in this neighborhood, or at least on this street. The same model of home was built on 12th Street, 2 blocks west of us, and it towers above and past neighboring houses. Our street primarily consists of wartime bungalows and 2-story dwellings. A number of homeowners within our block have added 2nd stories, and that's included, to our bungalows, therefore doubling the living space, but maintaining the character of the area. And by leaving the existing basement foundations intact, these houses do not manipulate the zoning regulations. We've all followed the guidelines on our street to result in houses that by definition in the zoning bylaw are 2 stories, but are in fact 3 stories. At 2410th Street, the designer and builder are seeking to overdevelop the lot by doubling the allowable floor space index from 0.4 to 0.79, and by requesting increase in height from 7.2 meters to 9.17 meters. The designer requires this increase in height to accommodate an above-grade entrance point at 1.09 meters above established grade, which complies with the 1st story regulations of the zoning bylaw, with the remainder of the 1st story elevated by 8 risers, approximately 1.48 meters, which is almost the requested height variance, 1.97 meters. This allows the basement to be raised behind the garage and have the ceiling of the basement 2.57 meters above established grade, which is almost 1 full story, the equivalent of the raised front entrance, 1.09 meters, plus raised 1st story, approximately 1.48 meters. This, in effect, creates a 3rd story. As the garage is at grade, the entrance story is above grade, and the 1st and 2nd stories, in essence, become 2nd and 3rd stories. Attached, well, are there photos included? Did they come up? No? All right.
Can we get their petition? I attached to the petition.
Okay, so if you could go forward a couple of pictures.
So, ma'am, are you the author of this petition?
No, I'm not. I'm the reader, but I'm also a co-signer. So as you can see, the photo, we just went past it, just go up a little bit more. The rear exposure set, there it is. It demonstrates the same particular house that's modeled, that's going to be modeled on our street, on 10th Street. As you can see, it almost looks like a small factory in itself. Well, anyways, to compound the issue of the additional height, 100% increase in the permitted floor space index represents an overdevelopment of this property. The existing dwelling can be doubled in size and stay within the zoning regulations as we have. This and the equivalent of an extra story are not minor in nature, do not meet the intent of the zoning bylaws, and are not appropriate for the development of this property. Now, I thank you for this time, but I also just want to bring back the agent's photo, photo number 32, that he used as an example. 32 10th Street, I believe it was, if we could bring it.
Yep.
I think it's the last page. Yeah. And one more page, I think. 30, the next page. Okay, so 32, photo number 32, and it's 32 10th Street. That's not our street. That house is not on our street. So there's an error, and that needs to be addressed. Please.
So you're saying picture 32
is not our street.
which labeled 32 10th, new two-story dwelling.
Yes.
So that must be enough. We'll hear from Mr. Gain and
All right. Well, I think
maybe some other street nearby.
I don't know it.
Does everything else look accurate to you on the pictures you sent?
That one caught me off guard because it is on our street. The others are
Right now, or did, and they're now moving to relocate themselves to 10th Street. Their family members have changed. The pandemic has forced changes to their housing situation. Therefore, they're looking to move and to build a house to suit their changing needs. The proposal in front of you is a two-story house, not a three-story house. However, three-story houses are not
with YouTube.
So we have to go set a new YouTube. Okay. So what?
No, we're just.
Oh, you can continue.
We might
Okay.
be back.
Okay, let's.
Yep, we can see the clock now, so we can continue. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what I want to mention here is that 37 has a height variance of, I think, 8, almost 9 meters. And you can see if we, I don't know, can you zoom right in on the pitched roof of the neighbor? We're actually below the pitch. So assuming that house, I don't know what the height variance of that original house is. If it's anywhere close to 9.5 meters, it's definitely over top of ours. So there's no towering impact based on the height. And again, the height that we're asking for is pretty much in keeping with this house, in keeping with other houses in the neighborhoods. So
Okay, so back
comment,
up. Are you saying this house that the neighbor showed on their petition is higher or similar in height to what you're proposing?
we're asking for 9.17, and
right.
37 12th Street got 8.64 in height. So we're just marginally higher.
Okay. And
Okay.
what about the house next to it? It's showing the house with the more
The pitched
normal
roof
pitch.
house?
Yes.
Yeah, that I don't know, but it's definitely higher than the 8.64 that was approved at 37 12th Street.
Okay.
Okay. So the comment about doubling the footprint, I mentioned, 40% only gives us a house that's about 1,580 square feet. That is really hard. Any minor variance is going to be required. That's really hard to get 4 bedrooms in, 2 bathrooms, whatnot. For doing house design for the last 20 some years, on average, 4-bedroom houses are anywhere from 22 to 2,800 square feet, depending on the design and the needs of the owners. So what we did here is that with the room over top of the garage, it's just adding to the GFA. Otherwise, if we take the living room off, we would just have like a 14 or 13-foot high garage, and that 400 square feet would be removed from the floor area, bringing the floor space index down to 66%. What we did, and as I mentioned before, about the living room and about the window and the connection, just the additional habitable space, really no change in massing. It's just taking advantage of that high ceiling in the garage if we didn't have it, and then inserting the floor. So overall, just to sum up, we understand not everybody's for modern design. My clients like the modern design. That's the way they want to go. Some people like it, some people don't. Some neighbors don't want change at all. But unfortunately, this is a desirable area. More and more families are moving into this area. They want to buy and invest in a home that they can grow into. And with the cost of Toronto real estate, there's a general trend that people are not building starter homes and looking to move. They want to plan for the long term, including thinking about elderly parents that might move in. So as a result, people are building homes to meet their current and long-term needs.
Okay, thank you. Also note, I guess, community planning has not weighed in with any comment. As you say, the as of right at 4.4, as opposed to if it was something like 0.6, looks like a bigger variance, and there's only in terms of what can be built. Anyway, anyone have any questions for Mr. Gain or any of the other speakers, or is someone ready for a motion?
I just had a question. Like I thought that there was a planning deferral request for this one from the planning memo.
Number 18?
Yes. There was a request for a deferral for them to have an opportunity to review the application from the general planning memo.
Let's take a look. So I did say they haven't weighed in. So there's the planning deferral memo. We have, it's hard to see here.
Looks like Sophia is right.
Yes, 16 and 18. So 16, we already deferred. That was a request also from the agent. And as well, 18, I guess we did have a request from community planning.
Can I comment to that?
Yes, sir.
So that was a result of when I was speaking with the planner, he was looking at applications that are currently on the AIC, which is not a lot. So once we did all the planning research and we did all our photographs and we did all the committee of adjustment decisions, I did forward that all to him, and he just not had time to review it, so he just recommended a deferral. But as per my presentation, I think I've adequately proven that what we're proposing pretty much is in keeping with the neighborhood and recent decisions, so we were going to want to proceed regardless.
Okay, I guess we do have to formally deal with that request. We've now spent 20 minutes listening to this application. We do have your presentation. So we have to, on the issue of deferral, which I guess we should have brought up. Thank you, Ms. Reddick, for pointing that out. Would anyone be of the opinion on whether we should have deferred this had we seen that at the outset? We often do not go along with planning recommendations, and when they're based on, sometimes they ask for a review when something has 2 extremely minor variances. Here there is a variance, but we have spent the time. So let's see, does anyone wish to make a motion to defer?
I would like to consider that motion. Stan Bellissimo was speaking, but could I ask 2 questions of the applicant first?
Well, we can have the other. But we have, if we're deferring, then we shouldn't have asked any questions.
Okay.
Normally we'd be making that motion to defer before we even heard. We've now spent a lot of time.
Thank you.
So let's have
Michael,
that.
I'd like to make a motion for deferral on the request of planning, and also that I had questions which are inconsistent in terms of sending the presentation, and such a large petition against the proposal. Plus, the applicant has not in any way indicated that he went around the neighborhood talking to neighbors. Those are my questions. But I would like to move for deferral. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, so you have Mr. Blissmo's motion for deferral. Is anyone prepared to second that? I can't see anyone's hands, so Barb, please advise.
All right, Laura Alderson, I'm prepared to second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, I'm opposed. So the deferral matters after we spent 25 minutes on it, but the matter is deferred. Mr. Gain and neighbors, I guess we had a bit of a trial run. So we will now, thank you to Ms. Ruddick for pointing that out at the 11th hour, that the matter has been deferred.
Luckily, we didn't have a full agenda today.
Yeah.
There was another speaker, Gary McClay, I think that we missed. So maybe just if we could let
Oh, we
him
did,
know.
eh? Oh, oops. Okay, so the matter is deferred, I guess. We'll hear for the neighborhood, perhaps the agent can use the time to perhaps communicate with some of the neighbors who've weighed in and discuss. And in the meantime, just find out from a community planning position would have been had they weighed in with a negative planning report or not. Okay, so the matter is deferred. So that leaves us, we have one more remaining application today. It's item
Two
number 19 and 20, 21 and 22 have been deferred. So we have 19 and 20. Item number 19 then. Oh, my agenda bookmark is not there. Item number 19 is 43 Rio Drive. We have again revised notice sheet before us.
Hello.
Show the two revisions. And it's now proceeding by way of waiver. There are 7 variances. There are still 7 variances. 3 of them have been revised. It's for a 2nd-story addition, 2-story west side addition, a new front porch and a rear deck. So there were 9 variances. 3 have been revised. We still have it. We have a cover letter regarding the revisions. Planning has given us a report for information and explaining that the basement is considered a story due to the particular nature of this application. And the applicant before us is EKP Design Inc.
Hello.
So one speaker here.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairman and committee member. This is Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owner.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Perez. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
you're the only speaker. Committee members, do you want a presentation or you feel that's not necessary?
I just have a quick Danny Belisma just has a quick question. I don't want a presentation. So I can go into question period or you tell me where you will go on this one.
Go ahead, Benny.
Applicant question is, it seems to me that this is one of those weird condition because of established grade. You don't have a basement in your house and therefore the basement is the first floor. That impacts on all the numbers. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct. Because we have 1.14 meters below grade and we have 1.38 above. So they consider it a floor.
Okay, thank you. So so it's because of this established grade issue and just say you don't have a basement, your basement's really the first floor and that number impacts on all the numbers. So thank you. I'm ready to make a motion if there are no questions.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what the planning report says. So,
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Danny.
So I find that the variances are minor in nature and move for approval. The variances, is there any condition number 19? I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so.
No conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now our last application of the afternoon. Item number 20, 42 Burrell Avenue. It's an application to construct a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling and a new front covered porch. There's only one variance, the front yard setback, and we have nothing before us on this item. Speaker is David McKay.
Sorry, I think it's Helen.
Yeah, it's Bill, actually. My wife. Just
Oh,
me.
sorry, I was looking at number 21.
No problem.
Yeah, it's Bill or Helen Soteropoulos.
Correct. Good afternoon,
Welcome.
Good afternoon, committee. So I'm the homeowner at 42 Burrell Avenue. We're just looking to construct second story above the existing footprint. And we're just asking for the one minor variance, the front yard setback. I think the rest, everything should be in order. We stayed, side setbacks should be okay. We're just going right over the existing footprint.
Right. Wow. So virtually nothing. It's it's just the front lot line through the front porch. Committee members, any questions? Or if not, can someone weigh in with a motion?
I have no questions, and I'm prepared to weigh in with a motion if no one else has any questions.
Go ahead.
I believe that the I think it's one variance, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
one variance meets the 4 tests and is desirable, and it looks like you're expanding your space for a growing family, because I see a bassinet out.
It's grown already, so not anymore.
So I'm happy to make the motion for approval of that one variance with no condition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that motion.
Palmer,
I just lost. Oh, Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, all in, okay, application is approved, and we motion to adjourn.
I can second that motion.
Okay, 2:55 p.m.
Okay.
Time.
We will see you all again.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Stay safe. Be well.
Thank you, Adam and Annalisa behind the scenes.
Great work.
Thank you.
God, you don't have to commute, Michael.
Yeah.